Hey everybody, welcome to Awkward Conversations, a video series by Seth and Sandra Dunn, where we choose topics that are awkward, maybe between us, awkward in the culture, awkward among Christians, and we talk about them. Sometimes it gets really awkward, sometimes it doesn't. It's a lot of fun. So today, we are doing, what did we title this? I understand, but I don't get it. So we're going to look at topics and things that, maybe we see differently, or maybe that among Christians. So I don't know. Do you want to jump in? Do you have ideas of things? No? Okay. So I will start us out then. All right. Here would be something about Sandra that I do understand it, but I don't get it. FOMO. The fear of missing out.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I don't think I have FOMO.
You don't? Oh no, see. So
This is what
talk
we
about
talked
that
about this
one
thing a couple times ago.
Oh, okay.
Because
All right.
I don't think I have that.
All right, so we can move along. There we go. Starting out with awkward conversations. Well, what? Do you want to talk about that?
This is one of the things that I understand, but I don't get it. As soon as I say something that is in disagreement, we just move right along. And I'm like, really? You're just gonna okay, go on to the next thing.
I mean, that is a good point.
We should talk about
And
it.
it is, well, we should talk about why I just move on, or we should talk about...
Probably both.
All right, okay, so why do I just move on? It doesn't really matter to me whether you have FOMO or not. I just often, here's the thing. I think FOMO is when people see things and they're gonna miss out and be involved in it, and that bothers them, that they're gonna miss out. So maybe there's two great things happening, for example, and they can only do one of them. Well, then that bothers them that they're missing out on the other. I could care less. You do care. So that's why I say you have FOMO. So why do you say you don't? Because is that a wrong premise? That if there are two great things going on, you want to do them both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to clone myself and do both of them.
That's FOMO.
I think I define FOMO as the fear of missing out. And I don't have fear about it.
Okay, yeah. You just don't want
That's
to.
what it is, right? Fear of missing out. And it's not that I'm afraid I'm going to miss out. It's just that
Oh, that's
I
hilarious.
would rather not miss out. I would like to do both.
So then it's not
Thanks.
FOMO. Okay, all right. I mean, I can see her point. So see, this is where these things. Part of our goal with this was to talk about these things that everybody faces, right?
Right.
We face it as married couples, but you face it in all your relationships, right? Those things that maybe are just different, and you can look at it and you can go, okay, well, I understand the concept. I just don't experience it, right? So then.
But you're the type of person who would just rather not do anything. I mean, there's very few
That's
things.
an extreme
Okay,
statement.
but there's very
but-
few things. I'm not saying lazy. I'm saying when it comes to social outings, what I would call fun things to go do,
Yeah,
your idea of fun is vastly different than mine. And so you don't have that because there's just not that many things you want to go do.
this is true.
You're very content to just be at home,
Mm-hmm. So
have dinner, watch TV, go to bed.
that would be one of those things, I assume, that you would say, you understand that about me,
I understand that's
You
how
just-
you are,
you don't get it.
but I don't get that at
Yeah.
all. Like,
And you know what? A lot of these things probably have a pretty complex answer to some degree. Like on this one in particular, the first thing that comes to mind is the whole introvert extrovert thing that's at play. So as far as understanding it, it's interesting because we'll go out and do things, and things that she would classify as fun things. We went out to dinner with some friends the other night. Was that fun?
Mhm.
It was, wasn't it? I enjoyed it too. The reason I don't want to do a lot of it and crave it largely is because it's exhausting, which would be, I guess, the classic example of an introvert.
Do you think it's
So-
exhausting? Like, if you hadn't done anything all day, that was like hard work I'm talking about.
Mhm.
If you hadn't been working all day, which I'm not saying we can end that, but if you hadn't been working all day, would it have still been exhausting?
Well, it depends on what kind of work I was doing that day. Because if it's physical work, then, so like that particular event was not as draining as a lot would be because I had had a fairly physical and somewhat, I had a lot of alone time, I guess, that day. So that coming in, coming into a social event worked. Right? Now, if I had had a day where maybe I taught somewhere and then there was a social activity, there was interactions, or maybe I've been meeting with a lot of people one-on-one or whatever through the day, and then I go into then it's even more exhausting. So it really comes down to what level of social, I think social is a fair word, or people interaction is required of me in that given moment, that given week, whatever that month.
Sure. I get it, but I don't get it.
Right.
Right? I understand.
Yeah.
And I definitely have that introvert side where there are plenty of times where I'm like, I just want to stay home. I don't want to be around people, But if I have that all the time, like
Right.
for me, I need about like half and half.
Yeah.
Whereas
For
you,
me, it's-
you need about 10% of that.
That's the number that was in my head.
So
Which, okay, so this is why we wanted to talk about this topic, not specifically to talk about FOMO or to talk about social or introvert, extrovert, but to talk about that these things come up. These things that you will probably never fully see it
right,
the way I do, and vice versa.
right.
So then how do we do it? How do we make this work? Because this is a great example to bring up because it's pretty dishonoring on my part, and I've unfortunately done a fair bit of this in our relationship because I just was unaware. But it's unfair of me to not press in and do more of that fun and social than what maybe I even really want to. It's fair of me to push past my 10%. And not just for Sandra, but what about other people? I've got friends like one guy, oh my goodness, he likes to dive deep on things. That just is exhausting to me. But I value him. So this is part of why I thought we should talk about this, is because I don't need to dive in 90% on the social thing, but I sure need to dive in beyond 10.
And now,
You know what I
on the
mean?
other hand, I have to make a fair bit of sacrifice. Because if I want to do
Well, we both do.
80% of the time
Yeah,
be social, he wants to be social 10% of the time.
right.
It's also simultaneously unfair of me to expect him to meet me at my 80, just like it's unfair of him to
Right.
expect me to meet him at his 10, right? So
Yeah,
then there's this element of, which is marriage, we've talked about this, compromise, and being able to say it's worth it for me to sacrifice
Yeah.
a little bit. And it's worth it for him to sacrifice a little bit. And that's what makes marriages work. It's what makes teamwork work, is when everybody gives a little bit. I'm sure that for a lot of people, even if you're single, you probably know this concept in the sense of at a job when you're working as a team with your co-employees, co-workers.
Yeah.
You're working with your co-workers, there has to be some of that give and take.
Right.
And there are those people who never do any of the giving. There are those people who do all of the taking, right? And there is just that element of learning what is that balance? And in fact, the other day was expressing to him how I rarely feel like I can walk into a space and just full on be myself.
Yeah, that was something for you to express that.
Because because it's too much. And so,
Yeah.
and I think that plays into this in the
Sure
sense
it
of
does.
like understanding how much do I lay myself down? How much of myself should I relinquish?
Yeah.
And how much is good
Yeah.
and healthy, and at what point does it become damaging, right? So I think that's part of why having this discussion and being able to know who you are and know at
Yeah.
what point are you sacrificing too much, because I do think there is a point when you
Sure
can
there is.
sacrifice so much it's damaging,
Sure.
and then I think there's a point where not sacrificing enough is not going to help you grow as a human being.
Well, or help your relationships.
Both.
Right. Both. Yeah, and I appreciate you did something really good there. I think that I want to point out is this topic that we've brought up. Really, yes, it applies to husbands and wives and to other relationships, but even just generally in social settings.
Yeah.
You know, so you just described that you feel like you have to tone it down. Would that be a fair thought when you go in? I put on a show. Right? I mean,
Right.
people are amazed a lot of times. I've had numerous people over the years when they discover or hear me unpack the fact that I'm an introvert, they're like, "What?" Because I show up in social settings and I don't present as what would be the meek or aloof or whatever. I'll put myself out there.
Mhm.
But for me, a lot of that is a show.
Right.
So where do I balance that? So, you know, to some degree, I appreciate you bringing that up, because this is, yes, between in relationships, but it's also just how do we show up in the world, and the balance of what is healthy for me, but also the value and when I say value, I mean the depth and gosh, just value that I bring to people,
And how do
you know,
you
and honoring
determine
that. Well, right.
How do you decide what point is healthy and what point is damaging?
Because, I mean, great question, and it's probably a little bit different for different people, but that would be a great discussion for all of us to have internally as well as externally in today's culture, because you see things easily out of balance one way or the other. And so to some degree, like, you know, for me personally, in answering that, I would say, this might be interesting because for her, I do purposely, I'll just make my statement here, you can respond to it. I purposely do remind myself, dude, you need social. Get out there, plan things. When Sandra suggests things or even just organizes them, actually engage in them. Find value in them, right? I mean, and I really actually am trying. I know, right? Because it's a big chasm. This is a great example. We have plenty of things we could have brought up today that are a smaller chasm, you know, between us. This one is one of those that, you know, it is a big one, and therefore it's challenging because she doesn't feel like I'm probably pushing in as much as I feel like I am.
No, I see it.
Yeah,
But I've
it's just
also-
always tricky.
In recent years, become more like, I need more, so
Sure.
I plan more.
Yeah.
And I figure
Yeah.
most of the time, if you ask him, most of the time I will plan something and say, I'm doing this, you can come or not, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
You know, now mind you, if we're going
Yeah.
out to eat with another couple, they probably want both of us there, right? I
Mm.
mean, plenty of times I've gone just me with another couple, but a lot of times I will
Yeah.
present it that way.
You will. In fact, you are excellent at. She'll often come to me and say, "Could you give me like 3 or 4 dates that we could go?" I don't know why, you know, kind of stuck on this example. That go to dinner with some friends.
Mhm.
Okay, and it's great because she'll say, you know, give me some dates. This would work. It lets me look at my calendar and consider what does that week look like right now, and do I want to fit that in here, or that day even. And that's always very honoring, you know, on her part, I feel like, because she knows that I'm having to push into this.
Yeah.
And so,
And I
and different
also
people
think-
could use different methods, but that
Yeah.
one works well for us.
And I
feel
also
like.
think, you know, like, it's important. It's because I've been lacking having that those relationships, those social times. Physically, it affects me. Mentally, physically, emotionally, it affects me. And so there's an element, like I should have had the doctor write it down, but I have doctor proof.
Write a
I had
prescription.
a doctor say to me, you need to have fun. Your body needs you to go have fun. So
Doctor told me I need to build things.
because I have a prescription that I need to have fun.
That's good.
It was that moment going, I have been too giving.
Or giving in the wrong way, maybe.
Too submissive, too
To
all
whatever,
the things, right?
whatever the motive is there.
All those things that
Yeah.
I rebel against. But I've been too extreme in those ways of
Yeah.
sacrificing too much and legitimately having your doctor say, your body is not happy with you. It needs you to do something different. Made me go, oh, okay. Like that was a bit of a
Yeah.
wake-up call for
It
me.
was. I remember
And
that.
I
Yeah.
still, now mind you, because I really enjoy fun, I have to be careful not to take that to an extreme as
Sure,
well.
sure.
Because, it'd be easy for me to go, I need to have fun, and just go haywire. And I would like to do that. I was watching a show the other day, and some of what they were doing, I was like, it looks like so much fun. And I was like, no, like, there are limits to have, right? Again, that finding that balance of what's healthy, what's damaging, and being able to rectify that in your own heart. Like, I need to know that for myself. What is that?
Yeah.
What is that balance? And then I need to be able to have those, whether it's boundaries or what would be the opposite, freedoms,
Yeah.
to pursue things, knowing what that is,
Yeah.
and therefore helping you know what that is for me, not making you do it all, but helping you see and know and understand this is something I need, so
Right.
you can participate or not, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this is the topic that we're on, is like, I get it in the sense of like, I understand what you're telling me, but I don't get it experientially.
Right.
I
That's
don't
huge.
know what it is that you're telling me that you need, because I have no understanding of that.
Right. And to that point, I might, any one of us, but in this case, I might gain in my understanding of an area of you.
Mhm.
And that would be good. But you can also figure out how to live in this world or in a relationship with those things you don't understand, and figure out in a healthy way how to do it. And of course, let that be a process. Like, she just described a wonderful, I think, key thing for all of us is when her doctor said to her, like, really wrote a prescription for you, your body needs you to have more fun than you're having. Do you hear what she said? It was a wake-up moment for her. I think those key moments where our hearts are just ready, I call them learning moments. That moment where your heart is just ready for something. Those are worth honoring, those moments, and not going overboard with them or going crazy with them. But, you've heard probably both of us say that, we both had a powerful experience when we heard the first time that God loves you the same no matter what you do or don't do. Now, I think it was different for us, but it was a powerful learning moment. And so honor those, look for those. And even in these situations, look for those things that are going to help you learn, maybe to understand more, but also just how can this function well, that it's the best it can be in your situation, in your relationship, or in your life, or those around you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just think that's really
thinking,
important.
We don't, as a society, as a society, we don't particularly, I don't know if understand is the right word, but we don't particularly understand or know how to do sacrifice for
True.
especially people who I would say under the age of 40, right? Like trying to understand how to sacrifice,
Yeah.
because there's so much influence of you do what's best
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah.
do everything you need, like, and there's no, like, I don't feel like there's much instruction or help out there that says, here's how you lay down your life for somebody else in a healthy
Yeah.
way.
Right.
It's like we've got this chasm of these two extremes where we either are told as a Christian you lay down your life and to the point that is damaging, like
Right.
it becomes unhealthy, or we're told you do you, self-love, it's everything about you, and then it's just all about you.
Yeah.
And I think again, like that balance, and I know there are plenty of people who push against that balance either way, and I just think it's super important.
It is.
Having that balance
Yeah.
is really important.
It is.
Understanding at what point it's healthy, what point it's damaging. And honestly, I haven't figured it out. Like I'm still in the midst of trying to know for myself where is that? And I'm in communication with God about it. Like
Right.
help me to know when to just go ahead and be my extreme. I don't even think I'm extreme, but people do. Crazy self, honest self, like fun, whatever, all those things. At what point is that helpful
Right.
to those around me? And at what point is that damaging? And at what point is it damaging to me to tone it down? And I still, haven't fully figured that out. And I'm at least halfway through my life, I think.
As you're unpacking that, I think it deserves, what you're unpacking there deserves the work.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because I think it's important to realize that there are, and this would just be one example, but there's many places in our lives that we can just let it flow, let it slide, let it be what it is, or we can do the work, so to speak. Now that's been misapplied to that term, do the work. But put in the effort to sort it. And I think too, here's a challenge for all of us. Do you like to have answers, solutions, to know where things are going?
A lot of times, yes.
Yeah, me too. And so I think that's probably common among people. I think it's some of these areas, it's okay to know that this is going to be a process. And maybe we hit that divine moment where that's the answer. But I think a lot of times it's fluid for a lot of reasons, and therefore it's gonna be a process, a journey, a navigation, and it may not necessarily be short.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
that's okay.
Yeah, and I even think this is where an actual relationship with God is important, because hearing from Him moment by moment in each situation, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think, like in this example, I don't think there is here's your answer.
Right.
I think it is in this situation, do this. In this time frame, do this. So I think there's those elements of timing. It is a bit fluid, and that's why being in a relationship, so you can be connecting to God and hearing in the moment what you should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and the first thought that went through my head that I was like, oh, that's really good. And we're filming this right before we start the new year, 2024. I don't know when it's going to be put out. But the thought that went through my head is, it is important to direct our lives. And I was like, that's really good. And I don't know, the majority of my friends, I would say, do that a little bit, but they don't do it fully. And I see a lot of people
takes a lot of intention, doesn't it?
Feel like a victim in their life, or who are struggling with things that I'm like, this wouldn't have to be a problem. And and I don't mean that in a sense like I do it right, you should all do it. No, I don't mean it in a judgmental way.
Or that there are problems. There are problems. There are challenges.
Yes, challenges within their lives to have to deal with. You just hear about people with different things in their life, and you go, "Wow, that's something to deal with, right? And then there are people who complain about certain things in their life, and I'm like, that's an easy fix,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So I just think it's important that we understand that we can
Right.
direct our lives. We can be
Yeah.
intentional
Yeah.
and give them focus.
Right.
And I think it's super important within
Yeah.
the, just now looking at the new year and what's coming, that
Mhm.
it's a good time
It is a good time.
to make a new focus to direct
Yeah.
our lives in a certain way.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? So
It's
even
really
in those
good.
areas that we
Mhm.
don't get each other,
Right.
we individually have to figure out how to direct our own lives
In that arena.
in the arena of marriage, in the arena of a job, in
Mhm.
like, how do I
Yeah.
direct my life in this thing that I understand what they need, but I fully do not get it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all face this, and that's why we wanted
Yeah.
to bring it up. You
Yeah.
know, and it's whatever you might, if you take this concept and apply it in your life, you're probably dealing with some very different kinds of things. But the concept of directing your life, the concept of owning where you're at, and yet being willing to push past those limits.
Yeah.
Do that effort, that work, whatever it might look like, to push on forward a little bit to a healthier spot.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I can say all day long I'm an introvert. The minute I let that be an excuse, no, I don't do that stuff. I'm an introvert. That's pretty lame, because I'm also a child of the King, created in His image. I'm a new creation in Christ, right?
Uh-huh.
I have ability and power and authority within me to push beyond that thing that is just natural or comfortable,
Yeah.
right? And to go into an arena that maybe is a bit challenging but healthier. So, all of those things playing together, I think our challenge to you would be own where you're at, own your stuff, think about these things if you haven't already, and then be willing to journey, be willing to direct your life, be willing to press in and go to that place of just greater maturity and growth, and therefore more life,
Yeah.
right?
And the best way
Yeah.
to do that is being in a connection.
Absolutely.
Like hearing from God, building
Absolutely.
that relationship so that you can
Yes.
hear from Him.
100%.
You can do it all day long on your own, and it may or may not work.
Right. So get into the Word of God, get into that relationship with the Father, dive in there, and then give yourself and relationships permission to learn and grow, forgive, and
Yes.
love. So I think that's it, right?
Yep.
For
That's
now
all I got.
on this one. All right, that's it.
It's over.
So it's over. Hope that was helpful. We'll see you next time.
Like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to ring the bell so that you get notifications. We love having you be in on this process with us. We are grateful to have you join us, and we hope it is beneficial to you, helpful to you. And I think it actually is beneficial to us as well. So
Yeah.
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't forget to do all the little
All the
things
good stuff.
to help spread the word.
That's right. Thank you.